As the wind erodes and the water corrodes, altering everything we think we know, but we don't. It's all temporary, and it used to, but now the thought doesn't scare me or keep my feet from following one after another until I slumber. Then my mind, not my feet, wander and dream of people and places I'll never see again. I've mended as much mental anguish as I can, and now I try to use this language to take these thoughts from my head to my pen. Cause though I don't speak of my dead friends or the circumstances, often the blow never softens or yields. I'm in a desolate field, lonesome stargazing, night blazing, chasing traces of remembrance and reverence of relevant friends and acquaintances, and faceless and nameless names and faces. And while my mind is racing through these photo albums and quotations, all these people and places far from me, for only land and stars I see when I'm outside of the mile-high city, which is not my city, for I was born 1,000 miles northeast of there, in the land of beer and lakes and pistol fire on MLK's birthday, where there is no minorities and segregation's mandatory. But that's a whole nother story altogether, and no matter the weather or hardships that any place brings, I'll still laugh when people shiver and say it's freezing, or say, hey, no, wait, I already had 18 mixed drinks, but I guess it's a Midwest thing, and I'm a mess from a dirty city and brought most of this filth I've gathered with me.
Welcome to another week of Experience Andy Weins Live. And this week, we're going to talk about how to get what you want in this world. Yes, there's a way to fill that gap from where you're at to where you want to be, and that gap is filled with the OODA loop. One of my favorite tools out there. Again, the OODA loop. We're going to be talking about that right after the verse here on Andy Weins Live.
My work labors on as lovers sleep in each other's arms, remaining calm and collect. I begin my self-reflection process of redemption. Honestly, I don't know where this road leads, or if I'm even going. Could be rowing upstream, or worse, chasing my dreams to the peak, to finally be somebody doing something with what I have, rather than saying again and again that I can't and I won't anymore from this day forward. Cause Lord knows the past is set in stone, the present is yours to mold and to use for future uses. I know I'm a nuisance, I'm told, cause I'm neither young nor giant nor gnome. I don't sleep on these streets usually, though I've made thrones of my own. I don't sit well with idle hands, though don't know what to do when I'm home all alone. I'm a menace thrown from society, and as it lies to me, I'll smile silently as others do as they please. I am watching and listening, and I'm grinning all the while, cause sometimes all you can really do is smile. So as the work labors on, I'll keep on singing my songs, and this day is never done. We just keep on spinning around that sun, and well, through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. Is to smile.
Welcome to another week of Experience Andy Weins Live. This is our opportunity to come together and share in the knowledge that we learned over the last week, and how do we apply it to this week so that we can fill that gap in from where we're at to where we want to be in this world. And as always, I start off every episode with a moment of gratitude. So today I want to be thankful for one of my newer clients. We'll call her C. C started working with me about 2 months ago, and in our very first conversation, it was very emotionally charged. It was spent a lot of time crying and laughing and hoping and dreaming. Over the course of 90 minutes, I went from knowing her on the phone for a few minutes to a Zoom call where we dove right into all the things. And now after working with her 2 months, I worked with her today on our call, and she was just beaming with excitement. She said she felt like she was wearing 100 different hats every day. And so our goal was, let's take off one hat every other week. And now only in just a few short months, she's taken a few things and moved them out of her life. She's learned to elevate and delegate things, right? Elevate people, delegate responsibilities to them. And today she showed up like a rock star. What makes her unique is when I give her homework, I give her 2 or 3 things to focus on for 2 weeks. She comes back, not only has she done the work, she's also influenced the people within her organization to do the work. So whether it's a 2-week time study, redoing an accountability chart, looking at the roles and responsibilities of the people within our organization, she's done the work and now she's influencing people. She went from being somebody two months ago that felt like she had 100 pounds of shit on her back and didn't know where to start to now someone that's evangelical about utilizing processes and systems that I talk about in my book and that I work with and give to my clients. So I'm extremely proud of her because she's taking these lessons that are relatively academic. They've worked for me, and yet it's academic until we can apply it and see other people have success with them. She's put the work in over the last 2 months, and now she's starting to realize her dreams are right around the corner. So before we know it, she'll be taking off at least 1 day a week to be going out golfing in the afternoons, because that's where we're going to get her together. So I'm extremely proud of her. I'm grateful for her for putting in the work, trusting the process, and now being able to reap the rewards and the benefits from putting in the work. It's like I've talked about a couple of episodes ago, I talked about this. Work is only, the word reward only comes before work in the dictionary. The only time, every other time, the work must be put in. Let's work smart, and then we work hard in that order. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. My ask this week, thinking about working smarter and not harder, because I like doing both, but smarter first and then harder. My ask this week is simple. What do you want me to talk about? What have I touched on over the last 60 episodes or so that you want to dive a little bit deeper into? What's something you read about in my book or maybe on a blog that you want more explanation to? What I've realized over the last couple of weeks is when I have conversations with people in the real world, I always ask them, I say, I love watching your content. I read your book. And I always ask, cool, what resonated with you? Kind of going back to my client I just talked about. What actually is transferable to the next person? Even when I wrote my book, I said, probably 85% of it is correct. It's probably 10 to 15% that is not accurate. Now, I don't know what that 10, 15% is until we put it out to the world and see what comes back. So I want to know from you, the audience member, what resonates with you? What do you want me to cover in future episodes? Because I love diving deep into what matters to people. I had a conversation this week with another woman. She's also a consultant. We were talking about how we collaborate together. And she said that one of my drivers is the way I can impact people. So I often thought that the people's perspective of me is none of my business. It's insignificant. However, I absolutely get off to people that are successful. I get excited sharing other people's success, knowing that I had a piece and a part of that. That matters to me. Knowing that my mindset, my perspective on the world matters to other people and influences them in a positive way. That is absolutely a motivation and a driver for me. That's that instrumental motivation that I get, that carrot and stick. I feel good when people come to me and tell me what they learned. So I want to know from you, what do you want me to cover next? So I want to dive deep. I want to give to you, the audience, what you asked for. All right. This week's lesson is all about how do we get what we want. We've talked over the last 60 episodes about goals and dreams and aspirations and how do you get from where you're at to where you're going to go. And the best tool that I've seen out there in the world is the OODA loop. I love me some OODA loop. OODA loop, observe, orient, decide, act. It's a decision-making matrix that was put on the U.S. Air Force back in the 1950s, back in the Korean War, developed it. What this comes down to is very simple. When you make a plan, when you have these guidelines at life, this is how I want to live my life, and you apply the OODA loop in real time, decisions become much more obvious to you. So today we're going to talk about the OODA loop, how to utilize it, and when you can tell when you're not utilizing the OODA loop, when you are failing. So let's talk about this. Observe. Look around. What's going on around you? Take notes of the current situation. Second, orient. Based on what you want in this world, based on your perspective, what are you really seeing? How does your position in this grand scheme of things affect what you're seeing? And how do the things around you affect your goals? Third thing is decision. It's time to make a decision. What is the best course of action given the information you have? Knowing that a good decision today is better than a great decision tomorrow. And then finally, act. Follow through on what you decide. So here is what a very basic decision-making matrix looks like. Now, here are some of the challenges, what happens along the way. Let's look at the loop here. Sometimes people act without first observing what's going on around them. They're just making decisions. They're just going out there. They're not thinking through it. They're not thinking about the consequences. They're not thinking about their goals or their aspirations or dreams. They're just doing the next thing that they think is logically in front of them without taking the time to really look at the world around them. Next cycle, some people get stuck in the observation phase. They're looking at the world around them. They're never actually following through on stuff. They are the woe is me person. Oh, this and that, and there's nothing I can do about it. Right? They haven't oriented themselves to saying, hey, I matter. I'm a victor in this world, not a victim or a villain. Right? I matter and my goals matter. And so I'm going to look at the world and start looking to see what I can do to achieve more. The next group of people get stuck in the orient phase, the old classic paralysis by analysis. They spend all this time. They can see what's going on. They have a goal in mind, and yet they keep reoriented. They keep looking for more data points to make the decision more clear to them. The other type of people never have a goal in mind, never have a desired end state, and gloss over the orient stage. They go right from observing to deciding without running it through a certain filter. This is why it's key to have goals in your life. This is why it's key to write them down. 83% of Americans don't have goals. Of the 17%, 14% never write them down. Only 3% of Americans write down their goals. My goals are right there. I can look at them. That is how I reorient myself sometimes. I observe what's going on around me. I observe the stimuluses. And then I reorient myself and say, okay, based on what I'm seeing, based on my goals, what decisions are in front of me? So maybe I have 10 choices and now it's narrowed down to 2 choices because what's best for my goals all of a sudden becomes a factor. And it's also not a factor so much where I sit there all day just staring and staring and staring and want to make this perfect decision every day. And then I fail to make a decision. No, I make a decision and then we'll see how the cards fall. Third group of people, they've observed the world. They decide what it looks like against the world. And then they get to the decide phase and they decide without making a decision. They're like, oh, that seems like a good idea. And then they just stop. One of my business partners this last week, we were talking about how we show up. We were talking about the things that we admire about each other and the things that we need to work on. And his goal this year is to be decisive in his decision making. Because this last year, there was 3 or 4 times where his big decision to be made. It was his decision. He's like, this is what I think I'm going to do. Like he already knew what the end state was, right? He looked at his options. So he oriented, he observed, he oriented, and he's like, I think this is what we're going to go with. Yeah, we're going to do this. Yeah, that's the decision to be made. Okay. Then make the decision. Say it out loud. Tell the fucking world, right? That sounds like something I would say. Put the things in motion and make it happen. And then finally, act. As we all know, I have it tattooed right on my arm. DTFT, do the fucking thing. Everybody has a predisposition of something that they struggle. They struggle somewhere in this loop. I am guilty as all. I am the failure to act person. I observe the world around me. All right, this is what I see. I orient myself. I process what I see against my morals, my values, my beliefs, my predispositions, my biases, my goals. How tired I am. Am I hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? Am I seeing the world correctly? And then I'll make a decision. And often it manifests here at work. I'll say, well, I said it out loud. Because in my head, when I say it out loud, that means it's gospel. It's written in stone, right? That's what we're doing. And yet I fail to act. I fail to communicate effectively to people what my decision is. I fail to go out and actually execute on my decision. I fail to set the expectation and then follow through and do the accountability to ensure that the decision I made was consistent with the actions followed. That's where I fail. I fail in that act stage. I know that about me. And so what do? I'm now very conscious. When I get the decisions phase, when I act now. I watched a video over the weekend, a video is 15 things people with ADHD do. And one of them was like, oh, they'll take a screenshot of something that they want to do later or read or buy. And then they don't actually do it. Hell, I did that this morning. I sent myself a video on LinkedIn from the Savannah Bananas. Like, oh, I really want to watch it later today. I sent myself the video. I didn't watch it yet today. Right? People with ADHD will walk into a room with 3 things to do and walk out having done nothing. They got 3 other things done because they didn't actually prioritize it. So for me, it's like, okay, well, how do I do that? Well, instead of screenshotting something, if I'm scrolling or I'm reading, no, do the thing. Don't screenshot the email. Answer the email. Right? My assistant last week, I got an email. What do I want for lunch for an event I was going to? And like 2 days in a row, I just avoided the email. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get to it. And finally, I was like, screw it. I need to like sit down and make the decision. So it was at Panera, and I don't know the menu. So I go to the Panera menu. I see it. I screenshot it. I sent it to my assistant right away. I was like, this is what I want. No onions. I made a decision. I got it as far as I needed to get it so that I had food the next day when I went to a networking event. For 3 days, I put it off. It was a 2-minute exercise. Go to the website. Oh, they got a new steak sandwich. Good. I'll have that without the garlic aioli. Like that was it. That was the mountain that took me 3 days to climb because I decided, oh yeah, I'm going to this networking event. Yep, I do want to eat. Oh yeah, they have Panera. Like, oh, I probably have an idea of what I want to eat. And yet I failed to do the final thing, which was go to the menu, look at it, send a stupid email. And I went so far as I had my assistant do it for me because I took a screenshot because that's what I did. That was my workaround. Everybody here fails to do something. And when we look at the circle, some people also try to jump stages. That's another thing that you can be very guilty of. You go from observe, oh, I see this thing happening, to decide before running it through your orient filter, before you consider, how does this decision impact my long-term or my short-term goals? How does this decision look from a moral value perspective? How does this decision look for the people that matter most to me? Well, I saw the thing going on and I made a decision without actually running it through that filter. That's a beautiful thing we have as humans. We have this ability to have a filter. And how does that show up? That often shows up in the fight, flight, or freeze part of our brain, that reaction where we are reacting to stimulus versus utilizing the orient stage. And now we are responding to situations. Some people orient and then act without actually making a decision. So they observe what's going on, all right? They decide how they feel about it or how it works in their filter, right, in their process, and then they go out and act without actually processing, hold on, what's the best decision here? Let me kind of map out my decision, maybe communicate my decision with others. If you're in a business partnership or you're in a relationship, it's probably pretty good you let people know. Like, for example, you go to the fridge, you see you're out of milk, and you just go in your car and you leave, and your spouse is like, what the hell was that all about, right? Oh, hey, I made a decision to go get a gallon of milk. Maybe it's probably a good thing to run past your spouse. Like, hey, we're out of milk. I'm going to go get a gallon of milk. Maybe there's a gallon of milk downstairs. You don't know. Maybe he or she also needs something from the store, and maybe there's already a list, right? Because what you did is you went right from orient, oh, I see we're out of milk. I like drinking milk, to, oh, I'm just going to go to the store without making a decision that's holistic to the entire situation. Some people decide, this is where I come in place. I decide this is what I want. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And I sit back and observe, waiting for it to all come to fruition. And yet I failed to act. I failed to send an email. I failed to communicate. I failed to do the fucking thing. And now I want a new result. I'm waiting. I'm observing. I'm watching. And yet it's not done. We think about the language. Those are the people that are thinking, they're talking, they're trying. And as I know, and you know too, that all they're doing is lying. They're thinking about starting a business. They're starting, or they're starting, they ain't starting shit. They're thinking about starting a business. They're thinking about, or they're talking about losing weight. They're trying to start a new business. And yet, okay, you made the decision. You're going to lose weight. What have you done? What are you going to do? What's next? You made the decision on the end state you want, and yet you haven't put the things in motion. And finally, there's some people that act. They do the thing. Awesome. Good. We made it all the way through the loop. And then they don't really observe the results. They're already on to the next thing. Well, how do you know if it worked? Did it make your life any better? Those people are constantly chasing the next thing. because they don't sit back and smell the roses, as we know the saying goes. They don't observe the fruits of their labor. I've been guilty of this also. When we finally act, when we make shit happen, I'm on to the next thing. And I'm on to what do we got to do next? What do we got to do next? And yet, I don't sit back and say, man, what do I got right now? How good is this? This is my moment to sit in the silence and enjoy the life that I'm living. Earlier today, I was on Facebook and I'm part of this group. We were all part of a franchise together. And people are like, hey, how's it going out there? And some people are like, oh, this is the worst. I'm bankrupt. Another person's, I'm going through bankruptcy. Another person's like, oh, I consolidated my loans, so I'm paying it off. Another person's like, oh, I went back to the old job I had. I just wrote, I said, it's been 5 years and I'm feeling great. Because 5 years ago, when I got out of that franchise system, I wasn't feeling great. The 2 years that I sat through my non-compete wasn't feeling great. The 2 years that I spent rebuilding this business didn't feel great. 5 years later, man, I am happier and I am healthier than I've ever been. Let me take the moment here to observe the greatness that I built in my life, the greatness of the people that I'm around. That's why I take a moment every single time at the beginning of the show to observe what I'm grateful for, because I often fail to do that. I know it's right in my PI, right in my predictive index. I'm a maverick. Mavericks often don't even celebrate the win because they're already on to the next thing. So I know I have this predisposition. I'm not weak. I'm strong. It's a strength of mine to move on to the next thing. And it's also an opportunity, right? Second step in life is to be aware of it. And now that I'm aware of it, now I know to celebrate the victories. And I also know this because people tell me. Last week when we were at our 2-day annual planning, when we did the exercise going around the room, people say what they admired about me, and they told me what they needed more from me. It was a start or stop methodology, as we know. I love me some start or stop. And one of the starts was, Andy, show gratitude. Andy, thank us for a job well done. Because I'm one of those, oh, the month is closed. We got the numbers. We got the data. On to the next month. We could have won or lost the month. Doesn't matter. I'm on to the next month. And the people around me, the people that matter, the people that fill me up, told me, hey, Andy, we want to hear the gratitude from you. We want to hear when you're thankful. We want you to observe the greatness that we're building within this company, within this culture. That was eye-opening to me. That is one of the reasons why we're doing this episode today. Because I want you guys all to take a little inventory of your life. What makes you amazing? What matters to you? What do you have around you? Observe the greatness around you. What do you want? Orient yourself towards it. That hurts. That's great. Well, let's focus on the greatness. That's why I talk about strengths and not weaknesses. Let's focus on what's strong within you. Let's focus on your unique ability. Let's not talk about the shit you ain't great at. Let's focus on what you're great at. Let's orient yourself to what makes you great in this world. Get decisions in front of you. Get the opportunity to make decisions and then make a decision. Communicate effectively with the stakeholders and the shareholders in your world that matter the most. And then, ladies and gentlemen, do the 3 steps I tell you every single week. Do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world, show the fuck up. And when you show the fuck up, you're going to re-observe how much you have changed, how much you have transformed. All those demons and all those dragons you slayed along the way. You're going to observe this new life that you only dreamed of one day. And then you're going to orient again. Then you're going to look again at what else do you want and how do you get there. And you're going to prove to yourself, I already slayed 1 dragon. What's 2? I got 2 down. What's 4? What's next? I remember last year at this time, we lost 9 of our top 11 employees. And after the 5th or 6th person left, I remember one of my employees said, hey, who was it? Ryan, he was our top guy. Came in, turned in his keys and credit card, walked out on a Tuesday. And I got a text message saying, hey, Ryan came in and quit. And I said, all I text back was, who's next? Because you know, in life, when you're scaling up and you're stepping up and you're going where you want to go, some people, some habits, some things are going to fall by the wayside. Who's next? What's next? What can you shed from your life? The noise, the bullshit. What do you need to get rid of in your life so you can live that life? You can bridge the gap between where you're at and where you want to be by following the OODA loop. Observe, orient, decide, and then act. Ladies and gentlemen, this week and every week, do the fucking thing. Tell the fucking world and show the fuck up. We'll see you next week.
Through all these miles and trials, all I've learned to do is smile. is to smile.